share the screen.
There we are.
So yeah, welcome. And so one thing that I updated the agenda with was since everyone, and I really mean everyone, is talking about ChatGPT, we had to try it and see what it was all about. And it turned out I've been looking through a huge amount of videos and trying to get the chat to explain itself to me. It's both easy and hard to understand how to use it, but finally I think I have something usable, so we can just dive into what I've done with a few simple maneuvers. In this start button that we have from before, that only points to a special category of wiki pages, and I think it's pretty helpful as a general wizard on how to do things if you're new. And I added a link down here and that says chat, and what that does is it takes us to the MDriven portal and makes sure that we are logged in, and if we're not logged in, we must log in order to use this. And this is just a view model with a button on top and a derived text field here and a writable text field here. So and I've primed the chat with told it to that it should answer in OCL whenever applicable, and that it should behave. But this is sort of the trick with this. It seems to be able to prime it to make it pick up on the right stuff. So here I'm free to chat with basically our wiki. So I can say what is OCL, and it should come back to me with the answers on that. And I can do things like give me an OCL expression for all customers sorted by name. Okay, customer all instances ordered by name. And the other way around, what does this mean? This OCL expression selects all instances of the customer class in the model, then sorts them in alphabetical order, blah blah blah. So it's behaving, but
cool.
It can get into it's like this. Have you ever had that feeling when you're reading news articles regarding a subject that you're really not up to speed with, and you think, is that the way it is? Fantastic, I didn't know. And then whenever you read an article on a subject that you are up to speed with, you think, oh my god, this journalist hasn't gotten the first thing about this subject. And it sort of feels like that, like it's a sort of okay journalist having read superficially and is very happy and confident and says stuff. But you can always please list the sources you use. So it uses the wiki MDriven, it uses the OCL language standard specification, and a few other things. So this depends on what you have asked it before. And if we were to ask it about something that's only available as an operator for us, what does the...
I have a question. Is it possible to opt out from one or more sources? I want the answer not including this source.
Yeah, you could always ask it. I don't know.
Okay.
So, but it's the only interface. The only interface is to talk to it. So what does SQL pass through do? So that's one that I think only available in MDriven. So the SQL pass-through function in MDriven allows you to execute raw SQL statements directly against the underlying database. Correct. This can be useful in situations where you need to perform a query or update that cannot be expressed through regular MDriven functions. Correct. Yeah, so it's okay. Yeah, let's try it to get to opt out.
I think that reply was almost a verbatim quotation from our wiki, but that's fine. But it just points to that we have a lot of things to add to the wiki, and then this will be even better.
Yeah.
The more we fill the wiki, the better it will answer.
Yes. So as I told Stephanie, it's really important that we continue the work with the wiki to get all the operators and stuff in there. And this can potentially be very useful, and what I think is that we can instruct it to actually use tools in the end. This is a fairly mid-level model called the GTP 3.5 Turbo, and what we will there are plenty more models coming, and also one that's called GTP Automation, or GTP Auto, and that's much more geared to using tools. So basically we could instruct it to like just create a class in the diagram called this, and it would do that for us. And of course we could already now instruct it to behave like that. We can tell it to, whenever I ask to create a class, do it with EAL. I don't know. Sure, I will keep that in mind. So, and yeah, maybe not the perfect, but yeah.
No, but it could correctly conclude what EAL was supposed to be.
And that was one of the things that I primed it to remember to keep in mind. Please explain the difference between OCL and EAL. And so two different languages used in the MDriven environment. They have different purpose and syntax. So that's for OCL, on the other hand, EAL is a language used to modify data stored in the model. It can read and write data associated with objects, create and delete objects, modify collections. It supports basic control structures. Yeah, so pretty good.
Yeah. Strictly speaking, EAL doesn't have a different syntax. It has some more syntax elements. It's a true superset of OCL, isn't it?
Yes.
But fair enough.
And this, so just as a fun fact, there's actually no state kept on the server, on the chat server in Azure. I have to send everything for each new question. So the package that we send gets larger and larger, and that will in the end get full, and then you need to push reset, or you could push reset at any time to make it forget the things that to have a clear mind from how I primed it. And what I've done some admin UI in Portal to be able to prime it via the application, so that we can change how it should initiate. So I think
and that priming, that's just some initial material you provide with every packet of text. Okay,
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's there are 3 roles talking to in this environment. One is system, and that's the priming. And then there's where I say that please use the wiki.mdriven.net as your primary source, and a few things. And of course, this is an art form. I don't know what to write to make it behave good, but it's a trade-off. You don't want to fill its memory with priming. You want to leave memory for chatting. But it's insanely simple way to configure it, because you just talk to it. Just send in plain text. So that's pretty neat. And of course I can ask it to structure information in JSON, etc. So I can pretty much ask it to do anything I want. And maybe we want different primers. So maybe we should have more buttons up here that now I want to talk about OCL specifically. And now I want to get help to pull entities out of text. And I want to have that those entities pulled into a JSON that I can immediately paste into the diagram to produce classes. So quite interesting possibilities that arise when you think about it a bit more. And also we could simply instruct it to express itself in very concise and clear ways that we pick up when we get the result as commands, and actually do something in the application once we see that text. So that's one way of doing the integration to make it to use tools, so to speak. So,
because it can't express itself in images, I guess. Not yet, at least.
No. So, but it can do word art. So, please try a diagram describing customer and country where customer has one country. Let's see what it does. Oops, here's a word art.
Wow.
So it customer ID and name and country, a foreign key to country, and a link to one country. Yeah, so
maybe set the dialog box to fix with font, but otherwise fine.
So,
Hans, I was just thinking of one interesting then. We people with big models, and I think we all here are big people, maybe big model people. We have this verbalization feature that you develop.
yeah.
So you verbalize your whole model. If that were to verbalized and
Yes,
asked
so it will be pretty good for things like that if you have any kind of expression that's complicated in any shape or form. Now we don't have that money in here, but yeah, it verbalizes whatever you give it. Please.
So if we were to, then if we would load that, let's say you have a big model for something with hundreds of clauses and stuff. Maybe then it could easily learn your whole model.
Yes. So
and choose on that one.
So
you can answer questions about your domain.
I think that's a limitation on the volume of the chat because I think it's limited in this model to around either 4,000. I think it's 4,000 symbols. And what's a symbol? A symbol is usually a word. So it could be, but definitely when we do, I think that we might want to use it in projects with large view models and have it describe the whole view model in prose and put that onto a wiki. What does this do? What is this view for? And then it could just pour out everything for that view in proper English. Or we could have it, yeah, I guess we could say, please repeat the above answer in German.
Oh. And it gets harsh all of a sudden.
Yeah, das Schlusswort. Yeah, so basically you could use this for like translating your whole application, maybe not online, but in design time. Have it just walk through. We could do a function for that. We have this model for handling translations already, but this way it could translate as a service prior to shipping.
Well, but maybe that's, you understood that. I meant like if we generate a verbalization as a website, you have this metadata website.
Yeah.
And if we could then say, if you connected to each of those models that we generate a whole site out of, this thing could have that as a source.
Yeah.
And then
so the thing is that the source need to be public, or there's another strategy where we set up the Azure Cognitive Search, which is the search engine it's an pretty new search engine strategy available in Azure that can open up PDFs and read images and things like that. So and then when we ask that something, maybe send in the query from this chat prompt, that will pull out a lot of documents and kilobytes of data, and we put that into the chat to verbalize and pull the important things from that large text into a smaller text. So that's the way they recommend that one does this to consume sort of enterprise data that should sort of be secret. So maybe it's only your domain that has access to the cognitive search, but then you can feed that cognitive search into the chat, and the chat will only chew on that and not remember anything. It just does a once through and spits out the result.
Okay. Well, I'm just, going off here on different directions to probe your knowledge about the knowledge machine.
Yeah, and I think things like this to describe an auto diagram what everything is, and weigh in also code comments that we have added to the classes to get a good verbalization that isn't too large would be good. From before, we have functions to that might not be that well known, but things like this to expression builder. So if we are self here and have to expression builder, then we can say take me from here, which apparently is a thing, and I want to go to a and if you have a large model, this is really practical. I want to go to a value store. How do I do that? Then it sort of loops through all the alternatives and comes up with the different ways to take you from this point where you are to that point where you want to be. So I can pick this one. And of course that would be a good thing for the chat to be more articulate about, to explain what does it mean walking this way versus walking that way. What is it picking up on code comments on the association ends? It can explain that, well, this is for the latest sales, and this is for the sales last year, etc. So that would be a real good way to help a developer to find the right way, because as the model grows, there are always multiple roads to the same goal, and usually it's only one that's what you want, and the other ones confuse you until you understand that that's not what you wanted.
Yeah. One we have talked about the 1,000 steps, and that they are a very good way on the how do I do these things, and I grow. And then the wiki is very good reference material for looking up things. And then we have talked about the need for more why things. And then today I had my usual meeting with Stephanie, and we talked about the book. And then I thought, why don't we? Because a book, I think, answers more of the why questions and how should I think. So I think she will reach out to you, Hans, and we talked about trying to integrate some parts of the book into the wiki. I don't know if that's the right strategy, or if it should be kept separate, or how they should be, but I think the wiki is more accessible and searchable, and now with this, I also see even more that a public chewable wiki that has the whys in it and the reasoning behind would make this chat much stronger.
Yeah, I think there's really no need for more sites to keep information, to keep documentation. We should definitely fold it into the wiki, I think.
And so, and it could be done, both as like a chapter thing, because that's a good way to consume too, because there's thought in the chapter parts of a book, but also the search. And now if this also then would have you could say a better understanding or a better explanation about the different parts, then this chat implementation would really capture more about why you should I do this or that, or why should what is inheriting in this way? What's the point of the view model? Why is it done like this? So I thought that's a really good, because we haven't had the time to do that. But so we looked at it, and maybe she could have the source files for that, Hans. Now it's almost an internal meeting, but keep with us. We're brainstorming at the time with you here, guys. So but you should also know that there is a book. I mean, you can actually have it physical also, but there's a PDF where you can read a lot about why you should do this, or why did things come around the way they did, and how to tap into like the power of view models and all that. So which is currently not really in the wiki. So I guess in the coming month they will be integrated into the wiki.
Yeah, and
also
I saw that there's a separate model that has been trained on videos, and I'm not sure what that would do, but supposedly it should both listen to the talk and analyze what's going on, and come up with if that model is any good, it might be a thing to run it on all our YouTube videos to break things down, to make that more indexed in the wiki as well.
Like content index, not words, but also the what it's about, maybe.
Yeah, so it's hard to pinpoint what it actually does that's feels so magical, but it's something. It's sort of follows some kind of logic thread in the language, which isn't obvious to me that it's there, but apparently it is, because apparently it comes up with okay answers. So, and I think this is the big revelation with this technology, that I don't really think that anyone guessed that this would be the effect, that there would be any benefit of just having a chatty machine.
One thing though that I still find fascinating, and maybe you can tell me why this is many seems to want that. I saw someone making Flappy Bird, I think, the game, in a YouTube video only by asking the chat GTP or whatever it was to create the code for it, and which is very cool and all, but then this way of creating even more code instead of
model. So that's of course a totally wrong way to make use of this, and of course the strength is if you can have the chat tool act on a high level description, so that it can make the drawing for you, and the drawing can be 100% what's executed, just as we do it with MDriven and our philosophy from the start. Just producing more stuff that needs maintenance isn't a good idea. It's a really crappy idea, and all these plugins to Visual Studio that will help you write code, and everyone seems to enjoy it very much, but it only goes to show that code is it's very convoluted way to express what you want, because if you can do it with one sentence, talking to the chat, why did it take 15 lines of code? So
it's weird. It's like you're taking the good description or the precise one or whatever, and then you bloat it up into something different, and then compile it back to machine code. And so you blur
Yeah, so that's just a cultural mishap. That's just people not understanding what they're really doing as of yet. But of course that will come.
Yeah. But I'm just, fascinated to see, because here in this chat example and what we're talking about here, it's the opposite, right? It's like to not have to process all the text ourselves, to let something else process all the text material for us and find the interesting pieces and put them together, hopefully correctly.
Yeah.
But that other thing is the opposite of that. It's taking the compact description and exploding it into more maintenance.
Yeah. So that's the direct opposite of a benefit.
Yeah. But I don't know, Derek or anyone else. It's just me babbling here, but yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that video too. It was entertaining, but, well, he still needed to be a programmer to make it work, of course.
Yeah, but of course it's a very good and fascinating tool to get a hint on how should I do this, because it is much quicker than what you are to look up APIs and interfaces, and it gives you ideas very quickly. But it won't. We shouldn't be too afraid of it, because it's really. It becomes quite obvious quite fast when you talk to it that there's actually no brain behind it. It's just once through projection of I guess this sort of makes sense in the bigger scheme of things, but I have no clue. It doesn't reflect.
Essentially, it's a statistics machine.
Yeah.
How would people in general in my source material solve this problem? And then it tries to find correlations and output those.
Yeah. So of course this will lead to, this is only one of the essential pieces of the bigger machine that is around the corner, and that machine will put up some text, implement that on its own with a tool, maybe like an MDriven tool, verify the result, the output, and see if that is correlating to the specification it had from the start. If it isn't, it would change it, and then we are back in something that has a feedback loop that can see what's the difference between the goal and what we had, and then it's sort of automated. Then we don't have to express a lot of we don't have to watch it just as closely, but I think that will be much easier to implement, having a high level tool like MDriven that reduces the degrees of freedom to only a subset that makes sense. And the problem with all the current imperative languages are that you are free to do a humongous set of things that doesn't make sense, and that's a limitation. It might feel like a freedom, but it produces bugs.
Well, it's a bit like when you're new to Linux and have 200 text editors to choose from.
Yeah.
It's not really helpful.
No. So, and just as a disclosure, we save both the questions and the answer in our model so that we can sort of analyze to see if we're tricking people, or if it's helping, or if it's messing people's understanding up. But I guess I'm surprised how easy it was to get some benefits out of it. So I think it's a killer thing to put in if you know what you want to give someone help with. And definitely as a search engine, Lars, as you described for a system, because we did this as a service before, this meta.mdriven.net, where you could upload your model and we would explode it into all the expressions, and not divulging any of the expressions as such, but just the verbalization of them. And if we could have this one to verbalize it for us, it would be much more proper English.
Yes. Very interesting. Yeah, so let's see. I don't know. It doesn't feel like it's going to take over the world, though, yet. But maybe that's coming. What was that system that the Terminator came out of?
Skynet?
Cyberdyne system.
Yeah.
Skynet, yeah.
Yeah.
Skynet became self-aware. When was it?
I can't recall, but there's saying something about how much processing capability it has in gigaflops per second or something, and I looked at that quite recently and thought, that's on par with my laptop. So the film hasn't aged all that well.
Ah.
Oh, so it's
I'm just an AI language model.
Yeah.
Yeah, sentience is still a long way off.
Yeah.
Yes.
I wonder if it can help out. One should try that. Help out sometimes to understand how to express things in CSS and JavaScript, for example. That I think is quite tricky. They are tricky to wrap your head around the recursive nature, or the things are inside each other and what's going on. But maybe it doesn't help really, because it doesn't understand either. So it's just telling you stuff.
Yeah, it's telling you stuff, and it can be dead certain on things, and that's really wrong. And then you just say, "Whoa, that was wrong," and then it immediately comes back and says, "Oh, sorry," and says something completely different. So it's easy to. I've read that they call it hallucination. They get into a hallucination mode where it thinks it knows exactly what you talk about, but it really doesn't. So as long as you have some clue that that you're accepting that it might be wrong, it might still be very, very helpful. Yeah, anyone with an example on what I should ask for here to see what it says?
Or a different subject to talk about. It's something you want to bring up.
Ask it where all the tits are.
The tits?
The birds?
The birds.
I don't think
sorry.
so. This page on the wiki sort of explains what the latest news are. Let's see if I can find that. Yeah, let's just do it here then. It's I guess.
No.
Yeah, it's just like this because it's a dump from SVN, so it helps me at least to find what this relevant subjects we could talk about. But maybe can you summarize the top items from here? Yeah, so yeah, I don't know if that was perfect, but I did some cutouts on things that would be worth mentioning if we had the time. And I think that since we will never mention this anywhere else, we might as well mention it here, because this was actually an annoying problem have been for quite some time. So and the problem I'm talking about is the ability to iterate over or rather to get the number value of a character. That has been for different reasons hard.
The ordinal value?
Yeah. So, and part of the reason why it was hard is that in OCL we don't really have a natural character representation. Everything is a string, even if it's just one. But if you have a string like this, you can always do two character array like this, and then you get them as characters. And then there's the at and the @0 operator that index an array to give you something. So this would be come back as the fourth letter in this, and then you were stuck. You only got the letter back, and you never got the number value. So I needed this for something and was really frustrated, and I thought, how can we get it? What's the proper way to do it? Because this is back to a string. So now we can safecast it to an integer and get the value, the number value of. So there already was an int to string thing, but or string to int, but that of course looked in the string and tried to parse the string into an integer. This is more as to take the character value and typecast it to an integer and return the value. So then you can sort of add 1 to it and turn it back to a character to get the next character. So that
we don't have a like ordinal or a val or whatever it's called in all the languages. Maybe we don't. I've never thought of it.
Yeah, I know that you have thought of it because you have asked me about it, but
okay.
So there wasn't one.
Okay, so maybe every time I asked you and then I went and solved it in C#.
Yeah, and we have all. Yeah, so we had all kind of workarounds to handle this, and the normal one was to I don't know if you remember, but we used to do it like this, and then take index of a character to get the number of it, and then we added 65 to or 64.
Ah, yeah, you're right. Now I remember.
That was really annoying. So that's one thing that is solved in newer versions.
This can I just ask, is safecast there? Does it work with .safecast?
So it depends on where you're coming from, but yes.
No, I think that's, the other one is the collection operator, I think so.
So it's not necessarily the collection, it's the identifier of an operator, and sometimes it gets confused if you're talking about a property or an operator, and then you need to use the arrow. But if it's not confused, you can use the dot. Yeah. Yes, all right. Maybe we should take a short visit back to the one that I've so last session I had this login into Office 365, and I said that I would fix it somehow, but it wasn't fixed at that time. So, and I can just mention if anyone is interested. First off, this is an example that's available in the checked in MDriven examples that you get to from here. So just download the fresh samples, and it should be in maybe I haven't checked it in. It should be here. Oh, that's the button. Download from GitHub. So it's here, and then you could merge in that, or you could open that to work with it directly. The problem is that let's see, maybe I can just run this. I'm gonna run it. And then I would have a start application. And in this view, yeah, I need to be logged in as a local user in this, and I think I have a user called AA23456. And if I try to just call out straight out to the world, to the API with a search query, that will probably fail because the access token has expired. It expires within a minute. But this managed to get the result anyway, and that's amazing. How did it do it? And there's a new strategy for any REST operators that use these nestings, that you can have actions here. There are two actions that are available: on fail and on success. So if this REST call fails, it will call the on fail action. So most likely the first call to this failed. And what do we want to do then if it fails? Well, most likely it fails due to the refresh token is expired. It will always expire as soon as you look away. So we really need a good way to refresh the access token. And what it does is call a method here, Office 365 refresh access token, which is something that I've implemented. Yeah, I did the body on that. Yeah, that's a built-in function that uses the refresh token. So it's yeah, let's see if I'm saying this right. So this refreshes the access token, correct. But the new operator that I've added, besides the actions on this nesting, on fail and on success, so is the ability for calling the same action, overage action, once more. So this is a good thing for all these patterns where you need to check something, it will probably fail. You have no way of knowing that it will fail without trying it, but you don't want to stress out your user to tell the user, well, it failed, you need to do something and then push a button again. We just want to push the button for the user and then we want to try again. So there's an operator on the self VM called execute current action again once. So why it's called once behind? Well, we don't want this to get into an infinite loop if the other side is down. We don't want it to continue to try, just once. So that was the solution to this problem, that it will pop up UIs and ask the user to fill in passwords, etc. It's not necessarily the best thing to do. It's better to get a clean flow, and this flow should work with all REST services that we do. So if there's anyone that wants to try to build this kind of user interactive web services, like Office 365 is a good example. Spotify is another good example. It works exactly the same. You could use it with the Google APIs for cognitive services as Google to send in text to get things there. You could use it with the chat client to make sure you have an access token, and then even if the Microsoft interfaces are really cumbersome, it's sometimes you need to post, sometimes you need to get, sometimes you need to, it's back and forth and up and down. So it's quite some work, and that's why they most often package them as NuGet C# packages. I don't think they've read up on the manifest and the reasons and the good things behind REST. They're just paying lip service. This is REST in a Microsoft kind of way. So, but it's a good. I'm happy with this solution to make the user flow bearable when doing REST services. And I probably haven't had time to document this. Let's see.
Yeah, I'm thinking I have some REST services that are consumed that sometimes just comes back with, a spurious error. Maybe this is a good thing there too. Because I think sometimes it's just because the backend is so cold that it kind of times out. But if you were to call it once again, it will probably be alive by then.
Exactly. So that's another use case for it. And also you can have an on success, but I'm not sure what to use that for. I didn't have a use case, but it felt reasonable to have an on success if I had an on fail.
Well, you might want to log stuff potentially, and you don't want to log all the retries.
Yeah.
Because you presume the retries aren't actual errors, but just the access token timing out, and you don't want to, litter your logs.
Yeah, so it answered pretty good. So I guess I have written about it in the wiki. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Good. That. I don't know. On fail. On view model nesting. Not sure I've written about that though. Being loaded. No.
So you were just guessing there.
Yeah. just using words.
Mm. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Confidently stringing words together, yes.
Good. Well, thank you very much for
Thank
showing
you.
up tonight, and
Yeah.
hope to see you in 2 weeks.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Yes.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Jag kollade lite för skojs skull